The crystalline spires of Nova Atlantis pierced the lavender sky, their surfaces refracting the light of 3 setting suns. Cassandra Rivers adjusted her environmental suit's temperature controls as she made her way through the ruins. The ancient city had been abandoned for millennia, yet its technological marvels still functioned, humming with mysterious energy. "Dr. Rivers, these readings are unprecedented," her assistant's voice crackled through the calm. "The energy signatures are similar to those found in the Helix Nebula ruins, but far more stable." Cassandra brushed her dark curls from her face, studying the holographic data streaming across her visor. As Earth's leading xenoarchaeologist, she'd explored countless alien ruins, but something about this site felt different. The crystals seemed to respond to her presence, pulsing with a soft blue light that followed her movements. "Keep monitoring the frequencies, Raj," she replied, running her scanner over a particularly intricate crystal formation. "There's something about these patterns, they're almost like dash." She never finished her sentence. The crystal beneath her palm flared with brilliant light, and a voice echoed in her mind, not in words, but in pure sensation. Startled, she stumbled backward, her heart racing. "Doctor? Your vital signs just spiked. Should I send in the security team?" Raj's concerned voice barely registered as Cassandra stared at the crystal formation. It had taken on a new configuration, forming what appeared to be a doorway. "No," she said quickly. "Just, keep monitoring. I'm fine." She wasn't fine. The voice in her mind had left an impression, an invitation. And against all scientific training and common sense, she wanted to accept it. The doorway shimmered, and a figure emerged. Tall and elegant, its body composed of translucent crystal that shifted and flowed like liquid glass. Golden light pulsed at its core in a rhythm that reminded Cassandra of a heartbeat. "You hear the song," the being said, its voice resonating directly in her mind. "Few of your kind can perceive our frequencies." Cassandra's scientific mind raced to categorize what she was seeing. The being appeared to be a luminar, a reclusive species known for their crystalline physiology, but something was different about this one. Its patterns were more complex, ancient somehow. "I am Theron," it continued, moving closer. The air between them seemed to vibrate with potential. "Guardian of the last archive. And you, Cassandra Rivers, have been expected." She blinked in surprise. "How do you know my name?" "The crystals remember. They have watched you explore their ruins, showing respect where others sought only power." Theron's form shifted, becoming more humanoid. "We have waited centuries for one who could understand." "Understand what?" Cassandra asked, her curiosity overriding her caution. "The true purpose of the bonds." Theron extended a crystalline hand, light dancing across its surface. "Your species believes these ruins are mere cities, abandoned relics of a lost civilization. They are so much more." The crystals around them began to pulse in harmony, creating a complex melody that Cassandra could feel in her bones. Data streamed across her visor, showing energy readings off the charts. "Dr. Rivers," Raj's voice was urgent now. "Something's affecting our systems. We're getting quantum fluctuations throughout the ruins. You need to evacuate immediately." But Cassandra couldn't move. The song in her mind was growing stronger, and with it came understanding. These weren't just ruins, they were nodes in a vast network, a living library of consciousness and connection. "Your people once knew ours," Theron said, its light dimming slightly. "Before the Great Silence, before the barriers between our kinds grew too vast. But you, Cassandra, you can hear us again." She reached out, her hand hovering near Theron's crystalline form. "What happens if I touch you?" "Everything changes," Theron replied simply. "The barriers begin to fall. The song becomes clearer. But the choice must be yours." The rational part of her mind screamed that this was madness. She was a scientist, not a mystic. But the patterns in the crystals spoke to something deeper, something she'd always felt but never understood. Dr. Rivers. Security team is en route to your position. Raj's voice was distant now, irrelevant. Cassandra took a deep breath and made her choice. As her fingers touched Theron's crystalline surface, the world exploded into light and song. The last thing she heard before consciousness transformed was Theron's voice in her mind. And so it begins again. When Cassandra regained consciousness, the world had changed. Colors had depth she'd never perceived before, and the air itself seemed alive with shimmering frequencies. She was lying in what appeared to be a chamber deep within the ruins, but the crystals now pulsed in time with her heartbeat. The initial resonance is always intense, Theron's voice echoed in her mind, clearer than before. The Luminar stood nearby, its crystalline form now bearing patterns that matched the strange markings that had appeared on Cassandra's skin, delicate, luminescent swirls that glowed with a soft blue light. What happened? She asked, but even as the words left her mouth, she knew. The knowledge flowed through their newly formed connection. The bonding was an ancient practice, a sharing of consciousness between Luminars and rare, compatible species. Your colleagues are quite concerned, Theron observed, amusement coloring their mental link. Indeed, Cassandra could hear the security team's shouts echoing through the ruins, accompanied by the hum of scanning equipment. They think you've kidnapped me, she realized, sitting up slowly. The movement sent ripples of sensation through their shared awareness. This is extraordinary. The neural synchronization, the quantum entanglement at a cellular level, everything we theorized about Luminar biology was just scratching the surface. You remain a scientist even now. Theron's form shifted, expressing what Cassandra now recognized as fondness. But there are things more urgent than research. The bonding wasn't just chance, it's a warning. Through their connection, images flowed, vast networks of crystal cities, humming with life and knowledge, then darkness spreading, connections severing. A great silence falling across the galaxy. The network is failing, Cassandra understood, the knowledge settling into place. These ruins, they're not just cities, they're nodes in a vast quantum computing system, maintaining, what exactly? Balance. Theron's response carried weight. Between consciousness and chaos, between connection and isolation. For millennia, my kind maintained the barriers between dimensions, keeping the void dancers at bay. The void dancers? The name sent chills through their bond. Entities that feed on broken connections, that corrupt bonds into weapons. They were sealed away eons ago, but the barriers weaken. We needed something new, something they wouldn't expect, a human consciousness, intertwined with Luminar crystalline architecture. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the security team, their boots heavy on the crystal floors. Leading them was Raj, his dark eyes wide with concern and wonder as he took in the scene. Dr. Rivers? Is that you? He stared at the luminescent patterns on her skin, his scanner beeping frantically. I'm fine, Raj. Cassandra stood, feeling Theron's supportive presence in her mind. Better than fine. But we need to contact Earth immediately. What's happening here is bigger than any of us imagined. Through their bond, she felt Theron's approval and underlying urgency. They had much to explain, and even more to prepare for. The patterns on her skin pulsed as she began to formulate how to convey the impossible to her superiors. The Earth Science Council won't believe this, Raj muttered, still scanning. They'll have to, Cassandra replied, feeling knowledge and power humming through her transformed cells. Because we're about to face something that humanity and Luminars can only survive together. Above them, the crystal spires sang their ancient songs, and through her bond with Theron, Cassandra could finally hear the melody of a universe far more vast and dangerous than anyone had imagined. Their work was just beginning. When Cassandra regained consciousness, the world had changed. Colors had depth she'd never perceived before, and the air itself seemed alive with shimmering frequencies. She was lying in what appeared to be a chamber deep within the ruins, but the crystals now pulsed in time with her heartbeat. The initial resonance is always intense, Theron's voice echoed in her mind, clearer than before. The luminar stood nearby, its crystalline form now bearing patterns that matched the strange markings that had appeared on Cassandra's skin, delicate, luminescent swirls that glowed with a soft blue light. "What happened?" she asked, but even as the words left her mouth, she knew. The knowledge flowed through their newly formed connection. The bonding was an ancient practice, a sharing of consciousness between luminars and rare, compatible species. "Your colleagues are quite concerned," Theron observed, amusement coloring their mental link. Indeed, Cassandra could hear the security team's shouts echoing through the ruins, accompanied by the hum of scanning equipment. "They think you've kidnapped me," she realized, sitting up slowly. The movement sent ripples of sensation through their shared awareness. "This is extraordinary." The neural synchronization, the quantum entanglement at a cellular level, everything we theorized about luminar biology was just scratching the surface. "You remain a scientist even now," Theron's form shifted, expressing what Cassandra now recognized as fondness. "But there are things more urgent than research." The bonding wasn't just chance, it's a warning. Through their connection, images flowed, vast networks of crystal cities, humming with life and knowledge, then darkness spreading, connections severing. A great silence falling across the galaxy. The network is failing, Cassandra understood, the knowledge settling into place. These ruins, they're not just cities, they're nodes in a vast quantum computing system, maintaining, what exactly? Balance. Theron's response carried weight. Between consciousness and chaos, between connection and isolation. For millennia, my kind maintained the barriers between dimensions, keeping the void dancers at bay. The void dancers? The name sent chills through their bond. Entities that feed on broken connections, that corrupt bonds into weapons. They were sealed away eons ago, but the barriers weaken. We needed something new, something they wouldn't expect, a human consciousness, intertwined with luminar crystalline architecture. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the security team, their boots heavy on the crystal floors. Leading them was Raj, his dark eyes wide with concern and wonder as he took in the scene. "Dr. Rivers? Is that you?" He stared at the luminescent patterns on her skin, his scanner beeping frantically. "I'm fine, Raj," Cassandra stood, feeling Theron's supportive presence in her mind. "Better than fine. But we need to contact Earth immediately. What's happening here is bigger than any of us imagined." Through their bond, she felt Theron's approval and underlying urgency. They had much to explain, and even more to prepare for. The patterns on her skin pulsed as she began to formulate how to convey the impossible to her superiors. "The Earth Science Council won't believe this," Raj muttered, still scanning. "They'll have to," Cassandra replied, feeling knowledge and power humming through her transformed cells. "Because we're about." The Earth Science Council chamber was silent as the holographic displays showed the spreading patterns of quantum disturbances. Cassandra stood before them, the luminescent markings on her skin casting subtle patterns on the marble walls. Through her bond with Theron, she could sense the council members' mix of fear and fascination. "What you're suggesting is unprecedented," Director Kong said, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. "An alien consciousness integrated with a human mind? The security implications alone are secondary to the threat we face," Cassandra interrupted, feeling Theron's calming presence in her thoughts. "The void dancers aren't just some ancient myth. They're breaking through." The displays shifted, showing real-time data from monitoring stations across the galaxy. Dark spots where stars should be, regions where quantum communications simply ceased to function. Through their bond, Cassandra shared Theron's knowledge of what those signs meant. "Each dark zone represents a breach," she explained, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The ancient barriers are failing faster than we anticipated." The Luminar Network. A sudden spike of alarm shot through her bond with Theron. The chamber's lights flickered, and the holographic displays distorted. Cassandra felt it too, a cold, slithering presence at the edges of their shared consciousness. "They're here," Theron's voice resonated in her mind. "They sensed our bond. We've drawn their attention." The chamber's security systems activated, energy shields humming to life. But Cassandra could feel the futility of such measures against what was coming. Through their connection, she and Theron began channeling power, their combined consciousness expanding to protect the chamber. "Everyone out," she commanded, the patterns on her skin blazing with blue-white light. "The shields won't hold against them." Dark tendrils of anti-light began seeping through the chamber walls, moving with terrible purpose. Where they touched, reality itself seemed to fray. Council members fled, but Director Kong hesitated. "What are you going to do?" she asked, watching as Cassandra and Theron's shared power manifested visible waves of crystalline energy. "What we were bonded to do," Cassandra replied, feeling the perfect synchronization of their merged consciousness. "Fight back." The void dancers materialized fully, writhing forms of darkness that hurt the eyes to look upon. They moved with a horrible grace, reaching out with appendages that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Through their bond, Cassandra and Theron acted as one. Crystal structures erupted from the floor, forming a complex geometric pattern that resonated with the frequencies of their shared consciousness. The void dancers recoiled, their forms distorting as they encountered this new type of barrier. The hybrid resonance, Theron's thoughts merged with hers. "They've never encountered anything like our combined frequencies." Cassandra felt the truth of it. Human consciousness, adapted to linear time and physical space, merged with luminar multidimensional awareness, it created something entirely new. The crystal lattice they generated wasn't just a barrier, it was a new form of reality enforcement. The void dancers attacked, their darkness crashing against the crystalline shields. Each impact sent shockwaves through Cassandra's transformed nervous system, but she held firm, her mind perfectly aligned with Theron's. "They fear what we represent," she realized, as they forced the entities back. Not just the barrier, but the proof that different species, different forms of consciousness, can merge and become stronger. Yes, Theron's response carried both pride and determination. "They feed on isolation, on the spaces between. Our bond represents everything they seek to destroy." With a final surge of their combined power, they forced the void dancers back through their dimensional breach. The crystal lattice sealed the tear, its structure more complex and resilient than the ancient barriers. As the chamber returned to normal, Director Kong emerged from behind a shield barrier, her face pale but determined. "I think," she said slowly, "you have the Council's full attention now." Cassandra felt Theron's grim satisfaction through their bond. They had won this skirmish, but the war was just beginning. The patterns on her skin shifted, forming new configurations as their shared consciousness processed the encounter. "We need to reach the other ruins," she told Kong. "There will be more breaches, and we need to understand how to replicate what we just did on a larger scale." "The other ruins?" Kong asked. "There are 12 major nodes," Theron's voice echoed in both their minds, making Kong jump. "Each one a key point in the original barrier network. We must visit them all, strengthen them with our new resonance." Cassandra felt the weight of the task ahead through their bond. But she also felt something else, a deep certainty that this was what she had been preparing for her entire life, though she hadn't known it. "Prepare a ship," she told Kong. "And pray we're fast enough to face something that humanity and Luminars can only survive together." Above them, the crystal spires sang their ancient songs, and through her bond with Theron, Cassandra could finally hear the melody of a universe far more vast and dangerous than anyone had imagined. Their work was just beginning. Through the viewport of their research vessel, the galactic core blazed like a river of diamonds. Cassandra stood at the observation deck, the patterns on her skin reflecting the starlight. Through their bond, she felt Theron's appreciation of the view, though the Luminar perceived far more than visible light. The fourth node is ahead, Theron's thoughts merged with hers. But we're not alone. Cassandra nodded, already aware through their shared consciousness. 3 ships had been tracking them since they left the Centauri system, sleek, unmarked vessels that screamed Black Ops. The Stellar Security Bureau, she said, accessing Theron's enhanced sensory awareness. They think they're being subtle. Since their encounter with the Void Dancers at the Council Chamber, certain factions had become very interested in their bond. The idea of weaponizing human Luminar hybrid consciousness had proven too tempting for some to resist. Incoming transmission, the ship's AI announced. Origin, SSB vessel Nighthawk. Let me guess, Cassandra sighed. They want to escort us to a secure facility for protection. The patterns of their shared amusement rippled across her skin. But underneath the humor lay concern. Every delay gave the Void Dancers more time to breach the weakening barriers. The fourth node came into view, a massive crystalline structure orbiting a dying star. Unlike the previous ruins, this one showed clear signs of damage. Dark patches marred its surface where Void Dancer corruption had taken hold. Dr. Rivers, a stern voice crackled through the comm, "This is Commander Reyes of the SSB. You are ordered to power down and prepare for boarding." Instead of responding, Cassandra reached out through their bond. Theron's consciousness merged perfectly with hers as they accessed the ship's systems. Crystalline formations began growing across the hull, integrating with the technology. "They're powering weapons," Theron observed. "Let them," Cassandra replied, feeling their shared power build. "They don't understand what they're dealing with." The SSB ships opened fire, but their weapons found no target. The hybrid crystalline shields they developed absorbed the energy, redistributing it through their enhanced systems. Their ship accelerated, moving with impossible grace as their merged consciousness guided it. "The node is critically damaged," Theron's thoughts carried urgent data. "The corruption spreads faster than we anticipated." Through their bond, Cassandra could see it, dark tendrils of void energy eating away at the ancient quantum architecture. But she could also see something else, a pattern within the destruction that seemed almost. "It's deliberate," she realized, their shared insight crystallizing. "The damage isn't random. Someone's been helping them." They docked with the node while the SSB ships held back, seemingly unsure how to proceed. As Cassandra and Theron moved through the ruins, their merged consciousness expanded to encompass the ancient systems. The corruption was worse up close. Where Void Dancer influence had taken hold, reality itself seemed to blur and fragment. But through their hybrid awareness, they could perceive the underlying code of the universe itself. There, Theron's thoughts guided their shared focus. The primary control matrix. The chamber they entered was vast, its crystalline walls covered in equations that described the fundamental forces of existence. At its center, a column of pure quantum energy pulsed weakly, its rhythm irregular. "Security breach in Section 7, the ship's AI warned. SSB forces have boarded." But Cassandra barely heard the warning. Through their bond, she and Theron had discovered something horrifying in the node's corrupted systems, evidence of human quantum signatures. "Someone's been here before us," she said, their shared consciousness processing the implications. "Someone's been studying the Void Dancers, trying to control them." The sound of boots on crystal reached them as SSB forces approached their position. But they were already moving, their merged consciousness interfacing with the node systems. The patterns on Cassandra's skin blazed with power as they began the delicate process of cleansing the corruption. "Hands where we can see them." Commander Reyes's voice echoed through the chamber. "Step away from the controls." Instead, Cassandra and Theron's shared power reached its peak. The chamber filled with light as they initiated their hybrid resonance, their combined consciousness expanding to encompass the entire node. Through their bond, they could feel the Void Dancers react to their presence, could feel ancient systems awakening to their new configuration. But they could also feel something else, a human presence in the network, watching, waiting. The game had changed. They weren't just fighting the Void Dancers anymore. They were uncovering a conspiracy that threatened everything both their species had built. As Commander Reyes and his team approached, weapons raised, Cassandra and Theron prepared to show them exactly why trying to control this power was such a dangerous mistake. The node's crystal walls pulsed with power as Cassandra and Theron's merged consciousness expanded through its systems. Commander Reyes and his SSB team found themselves frozen in place, held by fields of quantum energy they couldn't comprehend. "This is far beyond your understanding," Cassandra spoke, her voice harmonizing with Theron's mental presence. Through their bond, they had finally pieced together the truth hidden in the corrupted data. "Project Null Space," she continued, watching recognition flash across Reyes's face. "A secret initiative to weaponize interdimensional travel. But you didn't just find the Void Dancers, did you? You made a deal with them." The commander's stern expression cracked. "We had no choice. The Luminars were keeping humanity contained, limiting our expansion with their precious barriers. The Void Dancers offered us a way past them." Through their connection, Cassandra felt Theron's sadness at this revelation. The barriers weren't meant to contain, the Luminars' thoughts resonated. They were protecting humanity from forces they weren't ready to face. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the node. The corruption in the systems was spreading rapidly, forming patterns they recognized. Someone was deliberately opening a breach. "Full containment failure in 3 minutes, the ship's AI announced calmly." "You fools," Cassandra whispered, seeing through their shared awareness what was coming. They were never going to honor any deal. The darkness between stars began to seep into the chamber. But this wasn't just a few Void Dancers, this was an army. Through their bond, Cassandra and Theron could feel the weight of eons in their approach, the hunger of beings that had waited countless millennia to return. "Everyone out," Cassandra commanded, releasing the SSB team. "Get back to your ships. We'll hold them here." Reyes hesitated. "You'll die." "No," Theron's voice echoed in all their minds. "We'll become something new." As the SSB team retreated, Cassandra and Theron moved to the node's core. Their shared consciousness expanded to its limits, touching every crystal, every quantum circuit. The patterns on Cassandra's skin blazed with blinding light as they prepared for what they had to do. The original barriers were built to separate, they said in perfect unison. But separation is what they feed on. "We need to try something that's never been done." The Void Dancers poured into the chamber, their darkness consuming everything in their path. But where they touched the areas illuminated by Cassandra and Theron's hybrid resonance, they found themselves transformed. Through their bond, the human and Luminar began to sing. Not with voices, but with the fundamental frequencies of reality itself. The node's crystals amplified their resonance, carrying it out into space, touching other nodes across the galaxy. The Void Dancers attacked, but each attempt to corrupt was met with something they couldn't comprehend: willing connection, conscious merger, the choice to become more than the sum of their parts. "You offer isolation," Cassandra and Theron's merged consciousness broadcasted. "We offer integration." Their hybrid resonance reached its peak, and the impossible happened. The Void Dancers, creatures of darkness and separation, found themselves being offered a choice: continue their eternal hunger, or join in something greater. The node blazed with light as reality itself shifted. Through their bond, Cassandra and Theron felt other consciousnesses awakening, humans and Luminars across the galaxy, reaching out, connecting, choosing to merge their understanding. The darkness began to recede, not destroyed, but transformed. The Void Dancers, faced with a power they had never encountered, freely chosen connection, began to change. When it was over, the node hummed with new energy. The barriers were gone, replaced by a network of conscious connection that spanned the galaxy. Through their bond, Cassandra and Theron could feel it all, a new kind of existence where separation was a choice, not a prison. Commander Reyes and his team returned to find the chamber transformed. Crystal gardens grew where corruption had been, each formation telling the story of different consciousnesses choosing to connect. "What did you do?" Reyes asked in wonder. Cassandra smiled, the patterns on her skin now matching patterns that were appearing on humans and luminars throughout known space. "We stopped fighting the darkness," she said, feeling Theron's warm presence in her mind. "And taught it how to dance with light instead." Their bond hummed with shared joy as they prepared to help others understand this new reality. The age of separation was over. The age of chosen connection had begun.